Well, good morning, everybody. A happy Monday to you all. Hope you had a fantastic weekend. Good to be back. Good to have us back in the normal setup here. Good to be just firing on all cylinders. Good to be uh, back in the chair, and we've got a fun topic to kick off the week. And I know at the end of last week we talked about doing some quarterback stuff, some college quarterback stuff. We will get to it, and we will get to it this week here on the show. But there was a story over the weekend, um, and that's the beauty of what we do here on TDN Daily. We can kind of pivot. We've got that evergreen stuff kind of in our back pocket, and we can do a deep dive here. So that is what we're going to do on the show today in discussing the Tennessee Titans, their quarterback situation for 2022, and the long-term quarterback situation for this football team. We'll kind of explore it here today on the podcast. So a good morning to you all. What's up, Heldy? What's up, Bailey? What's up, Tuttle? Bailey says, not a big deal, but it says 2022 in the description. You know, Bailey, this is why we have you. This is why we have you as our producer, as our unofficial official producer of the show. I have now updated. It might take a second, but I have updated the description. So thank you for that heads up, Bailey. But yes, hope you all had a fantastic weekend. Hope you all ready to get back in the saddle here on the show. We greatly appreciate you being here. And you know what? I don't see any reason for us to waste any time here. We can get into it and start the show here. So let me just make sure I've got all of my stuff here where it needs to be. And we are going to transition into the full screen. And we can get this show started. So, all right, here we go, everybody. And welcome in to the Monday edition of the TDN Daily podcast. Chris Schubert back with you here once again on the show. Hope you are all having a fantastic start to your week. We are back in the normal setup. Feels good to be back, having the multiple screen experience. We've got all the monitors, all the information. Feels good to be back. It was nice to see some family. It was nice to spend some time outside of the great state of Arizona. But it is good to be back in this chair with this setup here with you all here to kick off another weekend. You know, we closed Friday's show by saying that we would start this week more than likely discussing quarterback prospects for the 2024 draft, my early look at them. And we still will at some point this week, but we are kind of pivoting. We're calling it audible at the line of scrimmage, and I think that is the beauty of what we do here on the TDN Daily podcast is we give ourselves the runway to deep dive into a specific topic if it intrigues me and at large you guys as well. And so what I love about doing this show is we can look at a specific team, a specific situation, a specific topic, and really dig deep on that specific topic because we've got 5 shows every week and we know that we're going to be able to hit some of this other stuff down the road. So I promise we will get to our quarterback conversation. We will look at how I have these quarterbacks ranked ahead of the 2023 college season, how I have them going into the start of the year. I promise we will get to that this week here on the show. But today on the show, we are going to talk about the Tennessee Titans and their quarterback situation because I think for a team that I don't believe the expectations going into the 2023 season are very high. This was a team that ranked very low for us in our positional ranking series. We didn't have many groups that we viewed very highly. I think running back and safety were the 2 groups that we thought Tennessee were a top 10 group. Other than that, they ranked very low in our rankings. This is a team we don't have high expectations for in 2023. Yet, I think a very important team to keep an eye on here in 2023. I think a very important situation could be developing throughout the course of the year, and that will be the long-term situation at quarterback for the Tennessee Titans. And I think in order for us to do this properly, in order for us to correctly have this conversation, we need to go all the way back. We need to go all the way back to when the Tennessee Titans got Ryan Tannehill and gave him a 4-year, $118 million contract. That contract started in 2020 in his age 32 season, that contract extension. It runs until the 2023 season. This is the last year, effectively, that Ryan Tannehill is expected to play for the Tennessee Titans. There are 2 dummy years on the back end of the contract for 24 and 25 in which there's some cap hits for this team based on the way that they structured the contract. But effectively, 2023 is lining up to be Ryan Tannehill's last season as a member of the Tennessee Titans, as an active player for their team. He's going to count against their cap in 24 and 25, but he's going to be playing elsewhere. So they walked into this 2023 season knowing that this is Ryan Tannehill's last year. I think it's also important, now that we have that context of that's the contract that was signed, this is when he's done. It was the 2022 draft in which the Tennessee Titans took a swing at getting a long-term answer at the quarterback position. And that was when they drafted Malik Willis out of Liberty. So knowing that they've only really got 2 more years of Ryan Tannehill, 2022 or 2021 and 2022 and 2023, just short runway for Ryan Tannehill. Not sure if we're going to pay a guy when he's 36 or 37 to come play for us. We're going to go ahead and draft Malik Willis in the 2022 draft, ahead of what is going to be the final 2 seasons of Ryan Tannehill's tenure there in Tennessee. So they draft Malik Willis. They get into the 2022 season. Things don't go all that great for the Tennessee Titans. A lot of injuries, underperformance. They blow the division to the Jacksonville Jaguars. Their general manager, John Robinson, gets fired, gets let go, no longer there in Tennessee. Malik Willis plays in replacement of an injured Ryan Tannehill, and it doesn't look great. It does not look good. He looks like a guy that, and this was the expectation of Malik Willis when coming out into the NFL draft, was this is a guy that's going to take some time to adjust to the NFL level. He's going to need maybe a year or 2 to grow into being an NFL quarterback, to learn an NFL system, to understand the nuances of an NFL offense. It was going to take some time, but the tools, the traits were there, but it just was going to take some time. And you kind of saw that on display, that it was going to take some time for Malik Willis. John Robinson gets let go. We go into the offseason. And in the 2023 draft, ahead of what is the final year of Ryan Tannehill's tenure there in Tennessee, in the second round, the Tennessee Titans draft Will Levis. So now we have a quarterback room consisting of a pending free agent in Ryan Tannehill, a guy you just drafted last year, Malik Willis, although not that high with a third-round pick, and a guy that you took in the second round, so even earlier than you took Malik Willis, in Will Levis. That is the way the quarterback room shapes up for the Tennessee Titans. And the topic of conversation that we're going to have here on today's show is what the long-term solution is for the Tennessee Titans at quarterback and why it's going to have to play out throughout the course of the 2023 season. Because when you look at this Tennessee team, there is not an expectation that they're going to go very far this year. Yeah, maybe if they continue to play that Tennessee Titans brand of football, they can maybe mess around and be competitive in the division. But Jacksonville, all expectations are they're going to take a leap from where they were a year ago, and they won the division a year ago. Tennessee, I think they're a worse team than they were a year ago. That wide receiver room's not very good. The offensive line is not very good. The defense has some question marks. Again, I don't know if they're going to be as good as they were last year, and they weren't very good last year. So I think they take a step back. And so if you know that Ryan Tannehill is going to walk off into the sunset, and he's going to be a free agent at age 36, and it doesn't really feel like you're really going to be intrigued by the idea of bringing a 36-year-old average quarterback back into the fold, then the long-term answer for the Tennessee Titans is one of 3 options. It's Malik Willis, it's Will Levis, or it's the unknown. It's the mystery box. It's door number 3. It is a free agent. It is a trade. It is investing more draft capital into a quarterback for the 3rd straight season. Those are the options that are presented to the Tennessee Titans. And Bailey says in the chat, the GM change was probably the end of Malik Willis as a Titan. I don't think Mike Vrabel was a fan of bringing along a young QB who wasn't a project. And I was going to get to this point, but Bailey, you got us there, so we'll go to this part of my monologue or part of this conversation that I wanted to get to, is it really does feel that because they drafted Will Levis a year after they drafted Malik Willis, and the way the Malik Willis situation was handled, it really does feel that John Robinson wanted Malik Willis, and Mike Vrabel maybe wasn't as much of a fan of Malik Willis being the draft selection for the Tennessee Titans, when a year later, gifted an opportunity to take a quarterback, they just took another quarterback in Will Levis, who is less of a project than Malik Willis is. And I think that probably feels like the writing on the wall for Malik Willis's future. But there's no guarantee Will Levis's future is all that bright because he's an unknown. He's a rookie. He's apparently being outperformed or was being outperformed in the early OTAs by Malik Willis. And I will tell you, the reason why this is a story, the reason why I decided today, July 10th, was the day that we were going to have this conversation, is over the weekend. It was Saturday, I believe the story was written, because I have it here in front of me. Yeah, it was July 8th. Mike Florio wrote a story for Pro Football Talk in which he said Malik Willis isn't guaranteed a roster spot. And the source on the story was a mailbag kind of roundup story written on the team's official website by the Titans team reporter, who wrote that Willis's spot on the 53-man roster isn't guaranteed. Kind of leads back into what Bailey was talking about, how the GM change was probably the end of Malik Willis as a Titan. So take all the context. They draft Malik Willis. He doesn't really play all that great. The GM, who's probably the person who decided to pick Malik Willis, gets fired. The following year's draft, they take a quarterback. Now we hear that Malik Willis's roster spot isn't guaranteed, even though Malik Willis has been outperforming Will Levis so far during the offseason workouts and programs and OTAs and all that kind of stuff. So this is a real conundrum that the Tennessee Titans have on their hand, because I will ask the question to the chat. I will ask the question to you listening at home. It's the thing that has me befuddled about all of this. The Tennessee Titans have Ryan Tannehill on their roster. Mike Vrabel doesn't feel like a coach who's really interested in hitting the reset button. It doesn't feel like something he's really inclined to do. So are you going to walk into the 2023 season and give it your all to try to win with this current roster that you have? You probably are. It's the reason why Ryan Tannehill is probably still on this roster and wasn't traded to a team that maybe was interested in acquiring a quarterback. We know the Jets were kind of sniffing around at the idea of adding Ryan Tannehill if they were to miss on Aaron Rodgers and Derek Carr. So there was probably interest. There were probably phone calls. But now that he's on the roster, and he's, 35, 36? Yeah, he's 35 this year. You're going to have to give it a go. The opportunity cost of giving it a go with a guy who, again, we all think here that he's not going to be on the team next year. The opportunity cost of doing that is you don't get a runway to evaluate Malik Willis. You don't get a runway to evaluate Will Levis. You have a smaller sample size in order to evaluate those guys. Now, yes, there's a new rule this year, which you can dress a third quarterback as long as they're part of the 53-man roster. New rule that the NFL put in place to help against, injuries to both the primary starting quarterback and the backup quarterback. Gives teams, it's basically a San Francisco 49ers rule, but I think a good rule altogether. So, yeah, you can have all three on the roster. But the idea of starting Ryan Tannehill to start the 2023 season, which, again, is I think what they're going to do, because I don't think they have another choice. Are you really going to sit a guy down that's counting for $36.6 million against your cap to evaluate the young guys that you have on the roster? You would have moved on from him then. You would have found a way to move on from him. So now that he's on the roster, you kind of have to give it a go. But how much of a go are you going to give it? Are you going to give it 5, 6, 7, half a season? How long of a go are you going to give it? Are you going to wait until you're officially eliminated from the playoffs before you start to transition over into Will Levis or Malik Willis? Now, Bailey says in the chat, I think Vrabel and that defense will keep them out of the top 2, who are a clear tier above, in next year's draft. And I would agree with that. Levis could easily replace what you get from Tannehill. It isn't a terrible comp. That's fine, Bailey. And I don't necessarily disagree. But you don't know what you don't know. And you don't know what Will Levis is at the next level. You took him in the second round. You don't know what you don't know. And so the idea that you are going to walk into the 2023 offseason, the 2024 offseason, I guess I should say, with a limited sample size of what Will Levis is, I don't know how you feel good about the long-term outlook for this team. Because if you do have a top 5, top 7, top 8 pick, the current feeling is there's going to be more than 2 quarterbacks. This class is going to extend beyond Caleb Williams and Drake May. At least that's how I view it right now, is I think we're going to have multiple conversations about guys in the first round. Are you going to feel so strongly about Will Levis? Again, a guy that you took in the second round, and maybe we'll have a limited set of games to evaluate him on. Is that going to stop you from investing in a top draft pick into a guy that might be better? Again, this is the catch-22 that they find themselves in. Sportsnut says, sorry I'm late. Does Tannehill get cut or traded? So the way that this looks here, and I have the Spotrac numbers up, he has a base salary, a signing bonus, a restructure bonus, a cap hit, dead cap, yearly cash, all that stuff for 2023. For 2024 and 2025, it's 2 dead years. They automatically void. They're void years. And he counts towards, there's dead cap that's associated with it. So he won't be on the team. He'll be a free agent. They'll just have the dead cap that's associated with it because they're automatically void years. Bailey says, I do think the benefit of having Levis be the young guy in the offense you run this year will be similar to with him. So practice reps are more useful. Willis requires a completely different offense. So Bailey, I get what you're saying, right? And I understand the place that you're coming from here, because the place that you're coming from is it's going to be a very easy transition for Will Levis to step in to what the Titans are going to do because he's a very similar quarterback to Ryan Tannehill. I just have a really tough time as a fan of the Tennessee Titans. If I was a fan of the Tennessee Titans, I would feel some type of way if I walked into this offseason with a top 10 pick, potentially with an opportunity to take a quarterback who might profile better than Will Levis. And guess what? The beautiful part about this is we're going to get to have that conversation because it's going to play out in one of two ways. We're either going to get a big enough sample size of Will Levis that we're going to be able to determine, no, you stick with Will Levis, or we find ourselves in a situation where we will have a projection on the quarterback coming out of the 2024 class, and we can make that comparison. Can I tell you what I think this is ultimately going to mirror? This might mirror what Atlanta did. Atlanta, at the end of the year, played Desmond Ridder for 4 games. He was a mid-round pick. I think he was the 3rd-round selection in that draft. They played him for 4 games. They had a top 10 pick. It was a little different in terms of the quarterback. But they didn't take a quarterback. They decided to go in a different direction with Desmond Ridder being their starter. It ultimately feels like Tennessee might follow the same path, where Will Levis might play the final handful of games, 4, 6, 7 games, and then they're going to roll into 2024 with a top 10 pick, but Will Levis will be their primary starting quarterback. That ultimately feels like what they're going to do. That feels like the most likely outcome, is that this is going to mirror the situation that Atlanta found themselves in entering this draft class. Heldy says Tannehill will not finish the year starting. I agree. But the question that I would have as a Titans fan is, if we know he's not going to finish the year starting, and we know he's not going to be our quarterback in 2024, and while you don't know this, I feel pretty strong saying that the Tennessee Titans are not going to be a playoff team in 2023. Doesn't it feel like those first 10 to 12 games that you might be playing Ryan Tannehill really feel like a waste of time? Really feels like valuable reps that you could be giving to Will Levis and or Malik Willis? That's the kind of problem I have with this, the way that the situation that they've put themselves in. And that's why ultimately I feel like what we're going to see is exactly the way it played out in Atlanta at the end of the year, where Levis will play the final 6, 7, 8 games. And it'll be enough of a sample size where you feel pretty strongly that he can be your starter in 2024. And then you'll use the top pick that you'll probably have based on the way that you played, invest in someplace else. Now we're debating Derrick Henry's trade value because Sportsnet says if the Titans end up with a top pick, it's time to blow it up and trade Derrick Henry like Carolina did with CMC. And then we're debating whether or not there's value there. What do they currently have? Because they traded up, using the old trusty second screen experience here. They traded up to get Will Levis in this year's class, correct? So they have a 1 and a 2 in 2024. They don't have a 3. They have a 4. They don't have a 5. They don't have a 6. And they have 2 7s. And maybe you can find some day 2 picks, but I don't know. I don't know if you're going to find day 2 picks for Derrick Henry, who's going to have a lot of tread on those tires. Bailey says, but it's a culture thing. Vrabel has got that organization to be fighters until the end, so we can't bench Tannehill, even if it makes long-term sense, breaks what he built. Exactly. But that's the perils of building it the way that he built it. Because when you build it this way, and you don't win in the window that you've built for yourself, and the way that you've done it, you run the risk of this turning sour very, very quickly. Because it kind of turned sour last year. And it's more than likely going to turn sour this year. And so now you have 2 straight years of it turning sour. So then, is everything that Mike Vrabel has built from a culture perspective start to crumble because they won't pivot in enough time? I don't know. And that's why I think the future of the Tennessee Titans, the long-term 3, 5, 6, 7 years down the road, I think plays out on the football field in 2023. Truly, I think it does. I think Vrabel won the power struggle between him and John Robinson, clearly, because John Robinson is gone and Mike Vrabel's still there. So clearly, Vrabel has a lot of power. He has a lot of sway. He is the guy right now. But if you have 2, 3, 4 years of consecutive losing because you didn't get the future quarterback spot right, it's a house of cards that I think comes tumbling down very, very, very quickly. And it all goes back to, what does 2023 need to be for the Tennessee Titans? And to me, if at the end of this year, if at the end of the 2023 season, they can feel somewhat confident in a long-term answer at quarterback that's on their roster, or have a good enough answer that they don't have the long-term answer on their roster, I would describe 2023 as a successful season for the Tennessee Titans. They need to keep up with the Joneses very, very quickly. Jacksonville's on the rise. Indy feels like they've got their quarterback situation figured out, and the rest of their roster is not terrible. Houston, I think they're 2 years away, but they're really close. I think they got the coach right. They've got a lot of young pieces that we all like here on this show. So you got to keep up quickly, or you're going to end up being in the back again. So you got to be able to turn this around on the fly. And maybe Vrabel will be able to get guys to buy in, and they will be able to rebuild it on the fly. But you don't do it unless you have the quarterback. So 2023 needs to be the year where they answer that question, because they need to pivot quickly if not. Because they are then going to get passed by both the Houston Texans and the Indianapolis Colts very, very quickly. So that's what 2023 needs to be for this team. It doesn't need to be, listen, if they make the playoffs, great. That's what every team strives to be. But to me, based on the way I feel like the outlook for the Tennessee Titans is for 2023, they need to end this season answering if they have a long-term answer at quarterback on their roster. If they get an answer to that question definitively one way or the other, it is a successful season, in my opinion, for the Tennessee Titans. That's the way that I look at it. And again, it doesn't feel like Malik Willis is going to be in the cards. It feels like this is Will Levis, or they will be drafting somebody very high in the 2024 NFL draft. That feels like the way that it is going to pan out. But I wanted to take a deep dive into it and explore this, because I feel like they are running the risk of this house of cards coming tumbling down very, very quickly. And at the same time, 2023, I think, should take on a different meaning for this team, even though, based on their actions, it kind of can't. And that's a really tough place to be as a franchise. They are caught in this true purgatory that I don't know how they get out of. Their decisions need to be very, 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 very definitive and specific here over the course of the next year or two in order to get this right very, very quickly. I appreciate all of you being here. Appreciate all of you listening in and being a part of the show. Please rate, review, subscribe to the podcast. We've got a lot of fun stuff coming this week. Again, I promise we will discuss the 2024 QB class at some point this week here on the pod. Potentially tomorrow, more than likely in the middle of the week, but it will get done here on the show. So you're going to want to rate, review, subscribe, share. Come on back. See us again tomorrow when we have more content for you. Probably we'll get into the quarterbacks at some point over the next couple of days. You've got the YouTube side of things. Monday through Friday, 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time is when you can catch all of that. We are in our regularly scheduled time slot all week this week, so you don't have to worry about us changing the schedule on you. Monday through Friday, 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time this week on the YouTube channel. If you can't catch us live, but you do want to see the video portion of the show, you can do so. The Draft Network YouTube channel, you can click on the live tab and all of the VODs are there. And while you're watching the video, whether it's live or on demand, give the video a thumbs up, subscribe, turn on the notification bell. Helps us out a ton here on the podcast. We are going to go into the post show now, where we've got more stuff to talk about. We're going to talk about more of this Titan stuff and whatever else the live YouTube chat wants to talk about. Even more reason to come join us on the live side of things. But I hope you all have a great rest of your Monday. I'll talk with you all tomorrow. Sportsnet says, what does the Titans' non-division schedule look like? Hold up. They are a Derrick Henry injury away from being the worst team in the division. I don't disagree with that. Non-division schedule. I've got to mute the ESPN tab so it doesn't start playing stuff. Week 1 at New Orleans. Week 2, home against the Chargers. Week 3 at Cleveland. Week 4, home against Cincinnati. Week 6, home against Baltimore. Week 8, home against Atlanta. Week 9 at Pittsburgh on Thursday night. Week 10 at Tampa Bay. Week 12, home against Carolina. Week 14 at Miami. Week 16, home against Seattle. Those are their regular season non-division games. They're going to be one of the worst teams in football. I don't think it's a question that they are going to be one of the worst teams in football. The Titans will win a game or two they aren't meant to, and against rookie QBs in the division, I trust Vrabel to make life hell for them. Okay, that's fine. But Bailey, you're probably maxing out at like 6 wins. Now, again, 6 or 7 wins keeps them out of Caleb Williams or Drake May and whoever else could potentially be QB1 by the time this process is over. But it's not great. It's probably top 10. I see the Titans picking between 7 and 12. Yeah, I think that's reasonable. I think that's totally within the range that I have them. Rookie QBs, even good ones, often don't win. I don't disagree. And I think Houston's going to have an uphill battle this year because I still don't think the roster is totally there. They can trade for Kyler Murray. Don't you start with me, Sports Nut. Don't you start with me in the post show. But yeah, I mean, this all comes back to the idea of the moment they kept Ryan Tannehill on their roster and the moment they decided that they were not going to move on from him, whether or not they even had the debate or not inside that building, the moment they did that, they've kind of put themselves in a box because they kind of have to go for it. But I don't think the roster is good enough to go for it, which means the opportunity cost is we're kind of wasting time. We're kind of wasting time with Will Levis or Malik Willis or, evaluating them. Do you think the Titans got better or worse this offseason relative to the league? I think they got worse. Their offensive line is a bottom 5 group. Their wide receivers are a bottom 5 group. Where did we have them? Did we have them? How many bottom 5 groups relative to the league did we have for the Tennessee Titans? Does anybody remember? I don't. I'm pulling it up. We'll do it. But does anybody remember how many bottom 5 groups we had the Tennessee Titans having? Because it was probably a lot. It was probably a lot. I got to unhide these. So Tennessee. QB was bottom 5. Wide receiver was bottom 5. Tight end was bottom 5. O-line was bottom 5. Linebacker was bottom 5. We had 5. Out of the 11 groups that we did, we had 5 bottom 5s. We had 1, 2, 3 of those 5 were 30 or worse. They only had 3 groups rated inside the top 20. Running back was 9, D-line was 12, and safety was 5. Nicholas Petit-Frere was one of the guys who got suspended for gambling. And I'm sorry, Sports Nut. I would love to be able to factor that into my ranking, but we already had the Tennessee Titans as the worst offensive line in football. So we can't move them any lower. There's not a whole lot we can do. Their average ranking was a 22. Their average offensive ranking was a 26. The defense is what saves them because it was an 18.4. It still wasn't good. They don't have a single unit that's top half of the league in our eyes. I just don't get it. Sports, I agree. It isn't a great situation for a rookie QB, but you can't just sit him. You can't just not have Will Levis play. Are you really? Because let's play that out, right? They played Ryan Tannehill the entire season. You're going to walk into the 2023 offseason, 2024 offseason, 2024 draft, not knowing a single thing about Will Levis. The only priors you have are how you scouted him. And I know you traded up to get him in the second round, so you like him, but you've got no other information than that. And you're probably going to be sitting with a top 12 pick. We all think there's going to be more than 2 quarterbacks in this draft class. You're going to let a quarterback slide past you because you got Will Levis on your team? That's tough. I don't know. I don't know what I would do. We're going to get to answer that question, but I don't know what I would do. I don't know if I could pass on a quarterback. And I liked Will. But I like a lot of the guys in this class, I think, more. It is a real bind that they find themselves in. That's why I think they're one of the more intriguing teams, even though I don't think they're going to be very good. What else would you guys like to talk about here in the post show before I get out of here editing? It's a home run derby tonight in baseball. If anyone cares about that. Chris, did you miss me? No, I did not. Because you came back and we have now it's not your fault. It's my fault this time. But we've now fallen right back into the trap of we have to record like 47 episodes by the end of the week. So no, I didn't miss you. Because while you were gone, I didn't have to record any episodes. Now you're back and we got to record a ton. Because I'm going away this time. It's probably a good time to share the programming note of no shows next Monday, Tuesday, or Wednesday. So a full week this week of shows, but no shows Monday, Tuesday, or Wednesday next week. I will be out. Apologies in advance for those of you whose days are going to be ruined by no TDN Daily to start your day. But yes, no shows next Monday, Tuesday, or Wednesday. Really interested in Denver this season. Javonte healthy now, and Judy been looking good. You got Sean Payton in there as well. We'll see what that looks like. Yeah, they're intriguing. They could be the spoiler in the AFC playoff race for sure if they turn it around and start playing better. You will still have. Jamie brings up a good point. There will still be prospects and props all those days because we are recording a bunch. So you can look forward to those. Yeah, we've got more props episodes that we're recording. Good show, Chris. Have a good rest of your day, Bailey. I hope you have a great rest of your day as well. Hope you come back and see us again tomorrow. I know you'll be here, but still. I hope you guys all have a great rest of your Monday. We're gonna get out of here. Gonna edit the show. Get it ready for the podcast audience. But I hope you all have a great rest of your Monday. We're back again tomorrow, same time, same place. Don't know what the topic's going to be. Maybe quarterbacks. Probably on Wednesday for the quarterbacks. Want to spend 2 days kind of going through the list a couple more times. But that is how we're gonna. That's probably what the rest of the week looks like. But I hope you all have a great rest of your Monday, and I will talk with you all tomorrow. Bye, guys.